Hello, 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 and welcome everybody to the August edition of the Wellness Policy. This is Wai Ting. I'm joined by my good friends Jordan Goodman and Neal Flanagan. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer wherever you are. Welcome,
Yeah,
welcome back.
thank you, Ray. Yes, we're getting, for Northern Ireland standards, a pretty good summer. It's been a nice couple of weeks.
And
21, 22 degrees. You guys might laugh that off as being chilly in Celsius terms, but for us, that's a result.
that sounds beautiful to me. That's
Yeah.
that's like the temperature I try to set my house to. Does that number mean anything to you, Jordan? 22?
No, but I'm dying to inquire. Neil, what is on your shoulders right now?
My shoulders?
Yeah, on your body. What is this?
Oh,
This
this shirt, you mean?
I've never
Well,
seen
you
a
have
shirt like this on you.
you have to remember, Jordan, it's after 6 p.m. for me. I've been out and back today. I was in the office for a while just to collect some IT equipment and stuff. So
Oh, this is
I have
corporate
to look
Neil.
presentable. Corporate Neal, yeah. Sort of.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, and Jordan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy
Yeah.
to be here. Um I'll share the breaking news. We're like on the doorstep of Neil coming to the US to spend a week with me
Yeah.
early next year. I
This
think
is,
I'm about to buy a flight for that specific trip.
I think you just jinxed it right there because this is
no.
not the first time you guys have tried to arrange an in-person meeting.
Third time's a
The,
charm, as they say in the Northern Irish faith tradition.
the levels of organization that are going into this are touch wood or knock on wood, as you guys I think say. Uh, yeah, military precision way. So
Okay. Well, just to catch everybody up, the first time you two were supposed to meet in person would have been back when we did that live event in New Jersey, which I believe was what, 2023, 2022, 2023, right?
That sounds right. Yeah, I had a Manhattan hotel room all to myself. That the second bed was meant for Neil. One of the nights it went to John Cena. We sent him our love. And then we tried it again for WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia.
Well, what happened in November 2023, Neil? Why didn't you make it on that trip?
the Newark trip,
Yeah.
that was the great passport debacle of 2023, or was it 2020?
2023. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full year. Yeah.
Much like recently happened to Drew McIntyre, if we're led to believe his social media videos. I have two passports. He has a US passport and a UK one. And he turned up at the airport without his US passport and got turned away. I tried to cut this short as possible. To enter the US from Europe, anywhere in Europe, you need what's called a visa waiver, an ESTA. It's the same with Canada. There's a thing called an ETA, electronic travel authorization. You need.
You can cut all that short. You don't need to tell us what
I
it stands
get
for.
when you.
Would you?
How
I
dare
was
you, Wai?
sorry.
This
I
is
got
crucial
distracted.
information.
Could you share that again, please?
Shut up.
What does ESTA stand for?
Silence. This, when you apply for this, you have to put in your passport details. I put in my UK passport details for some reason that escapes me and sort of forgot about it and got approved, and that was fine. When I turned up at the airport with my Irish passport, which is the one I always use, because post-Brexit it's much more useful because it's also an EU passport. I'm just going to load this with detail now to annoy you guys.
Yeah, I just wanted you to say you had passport issues. That's all. It's okay.
Yeah,
But
they wouldn't let me board, and it wasn't a long enough trip to f around with trying to get there the next night and stuff like that. So that's what happened that time,
okay, gotcha.
and I was
All right.
sick the other time. Very
Second
sick.
time you got like some sort of COVID related thing, right?
Yeah, I was seriously kind of.
Third time's the
yeah.
charm. Again, we might have just jinxed it all right now, but fingers crossed. You will somehow make your way over. Okay, we're gonna wrap you in a bubble and make sure that you have your passport glued to you this entire time, and hopefully
Yeah.
you and Jordan could get that in-person photo for the very first time. Looking forward to it.
Visiting
even
Trump's
podcast.
America, the Trump's America way. So I need to be careful about what I put on social media as well.
Yeah, watch what you say at all times. So, you are hoping to meet in person Jordan Goodman. Are you going to perhaps you're not going to Jordan's house?
No, this will be in Florida. So an in-law related home, perhaps for a couple of days, and then Disney World.
Okay, so you won't get to be at the Jordan Goodman home, unfortunately. So
It
that
won't be in
means
Baltimore.
that might be a future trip, and on that future trip, maybe you'll get to visit some of Jordan's favorite collections, which is what we are here to discuss. As I tried very hard to segue that conversation. We're here to talk about our collections, or more maybe broadly, the things we keep, the things that we refuse to throw out, maybe some of the things we should throw out, maybe some of the things we are encouraged to throw out, but also some of the things that we just maybe never will. The finding, discussing in the value in the physical things in our lives. This was a topic that we just kind of stumbled onto just in a casual conversation that you and I had. And I guess what does the topic mean to you, Jordan? Why did it maybe spark your interest?
You had initially brought it up with a different context, but and I apologize if you hear all the trash people outside doing their job. But perhaps the perfect type of professionals for a show like this. I mean, my family, they sold the house I grew up in a handful of years ago, and I was blessed to have that house essentially as like an ongoing storage unit for me. So for a lot of my life, I wasn't regularly confronted with the thought of, if I don't want to keep all of this physical stuff, what do I do with it? When they sold that house a few years ago, I threw away a lot of my possessions and donated a decent amount of clothes as well. And as I inevitably will move the next time, I'm already noticing there's a lot of stuff I kept that I just have not touched in the past 4 years, which leads me to believe next time I could probably let go of it too. But I think it's an interesting conversation. I mean, some people like have a literal like hoarding disorder where it becomes like incredibly stressful and overwhelming to the point of literal distress when it comes to dealing with their physical possessions. And then I think, like much of us, it's a matter of, do we hold on to things for monetary sake? Do we think it might be worth more in the future and we can sell it? But I think what's most interesting to me is, what are the things that to most may not have much monetary value, but I can think of a couple objects, some I have with me today, that I wouldn't see myself ever wanting to get rid of until I die. And maybe at that point, I might ask someone like my wife to have a plan for what becomes of those things. And I don't know if it's a conversation that most of us have regularly, if at all.
What are some of those things?
Oh, funny you asked. Okay, so I grabbed like 3 things. And I think in the conversation that we had a week ago, it seems like maybe I had more of a sense of like immediate things that were meaningful to me. I wonder if that's just because I moved not long ago, and so I had to like keep these things in mind. So the first thing, I guess, out of everything, this is the oldest. I have I don't know if I shared this story on this show ever. When I was, I think, 15, this was 2002, I went to a Green Day concert at Hershey Park Stadium, and I was brought on stage for about 10 minutes as the drummer of Green Day in front of like 30,000 people. And the only physical keepsake, this is before like our phones had cameras, so there's no video or photo evidence, but I have the sticks that I used. So these were pre-signed by the drummer, Trey Cool. These were the literal sticks that I used on stage playing with the band Green Day for 10 minutes. And
Wow. What song? Or what songs?
so it was a cover called Knowledge. I'm pretty sure it's an Operation Ivy song. The lyric, all I know is that I don't know nothing. And going into this concert, I'd seen them a few times. I knew that about halfway during the set, they play this song and they'll invite sometimes just someone on stage to play guitar, but sometimes a drummer, a bassist, and a guitarist. So I had a clear plan of where to specifically be and how to get there via crowd surfing. So by the time that Billy Joe would say, "Who plays drums?" My brother Justin and my friend Alexi could hoist me into the air, and I was the first to raise my hand and get his attention.
Amazing orchestration. I'm assuming you practiced the song like a million times before.
I don't know. No, in hindsight, I probably wish I
Freestyle?
had, because I don't know if this means anything to you, but the song had more of a triplet feel, meaning that if you're going to do like what I did, a big fill on the snare going into the final chorus, it would be a triplet fill and not a more standard like 8th note or 16th note fill. And at that time, even in the moment, I felt like I know I got it, but it's a little wobbly. And in hindsight, I wish I would have practiced that more. That was the only time in the 10-ish minutes I was up there that I felt some sense of, I hope this goes well. Everything else I had done, like I had just a confidence, even at a younger age, that like I could do it and do it well. And which was great because I got to be very, very present and not in my head during that time. And it's one of those quote core memories where I really can put myself back into that experience all these years ago and remember a lot and be able to like speak in great detail about just multiple moments of that experience. And it was a very transformative experience for me. I never shared this with you, Wai.
No.
Oh, wow.
Neil, you already know about this?
No.
Oh, Neil, I thought you subscribed to my Patreon for these stories. Anyway, I remember this was like a weekday, like a Tuesday, Wednesday, and as amazing as that experience was, 30,000 people. At the time, it was a band I was like a big fan of. It was the first time not only like I'd performed gigs prior to that, but I'd never performed a gig where even like the kick drum or the snare drum was mic'd, let alone on a stadium stage in front of 30,000 really engaged people as the drummer of a band that would eventually become Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. So that was really my first time playing a gig at that level, and it was exhilarating. It was amazing. And by the end of it, Billy Joe, I was by far the youngest and certainly the youngest looking of the three. So he saved me for last. He had the whole stadium chanting my name and then asked me to then like do a front flip off the stage back into the crowd. And mind you, this was a stadium. So the stage was very high and the gap between the stage and the crowd was pretty wide. And I had these drumsticks in my hand. So as everyone was chanting my name and now I'm backing up toward the drum riser to get a running start, I kind of did a barrel roll. People catch me. Then they're all trying to steal these literal drumsticks. So I'm kicking motherfuckers in the face until security grabs me and I exit out and enjoy the rest of the show. So all that to be said, it was like the most exhilarating experience of my life. I think at that point I could safely say. And then 12 hours later or less, I'm sitting in my public school homeroom listening to morning announcements thinking like, this sucks. And not this sucks because there's no value in school, but more so of like just the environment, the culture, the way I'm being educated doesn't seem particularly inspiring. It doesn't seem energizing to me. It didn't make me feel alive compared to the night before, how alive and energized and inspired my literal existence was in those moments. And at that point, it was a clear like A, B, compare and contrast of these things are possible if I choose to believe that they're possible and then create intent and effort and vision toward trying to have a more interesting, inspired, and engaged life. And that is something I often return back to when I'm feeling, let's say, more depressed, less inspired, even less confident. And these, what are ostensibly two sticks of wood that really don't have much value to most people, these have been incredibly valuable to me throughout my life, as just a constant source of remembering what could be, we could say.
Jordan, I have a question about them as possessions. Where do you keep them? Are they in pride of place? Or are they just stuck in a drawer? Or, that kind of...
Yeah, they're behind me on this shelf right now. You can see there's like a bunch of shit that half's mine, half is Lily's. This is an office I use. So on the table behind us, they sit out. So this is where I work. I do most of my sessions day to day. So it's something that multiple times throughout the day are staring at me, and sometimes I stare at it. And again, it could just be a reminder of like, don't settle. If I'm feeling less than confident, I can remember like 15-year-old Jordan, like went on stage with a real band in front of many tens of thousands of people and like owned the moment. And so that potential always lives within me.
And have you ever used them since that day to play drums?
Not in any aggressive way. For a good 10 plus years, I was teaching music lessons almost every day. These would be on display and would often be just a conversation piece for students of like, hey, these things are possible. I've lived it. You can too. But no, I would never want to like break them or even injure them any more than they already are. So they stay unplayed.
Yeah.
And it's not an item you would consider putting behind a case or anything like that, or have you?
I haven't felt the need to. I mean, it's wood. It's more durable than let's say a comic book or a Pokemon card, for instance. So maybe one day, if I'm inspired, I might put it behind a case. Maybe more so just for like the aesthetics of display. But nah, at this point, not really.
Incredible. Wow, what an incredible story.
Yeah.
The fact that you managed to have like this physical item that you can actually obtain as a souvenir from that moment to represent that moment is incredible. I mean, you could have just done it and then just left with nothing, but to actually have the sticks with which you performed, that's amazing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm very blessed. What's sad is so the drummer Trey Cool, he basically told me this is the 4 on the floor beat. He said hit hard, and he said don't show off or I'll kick you off. And once he saw within the first few seconds, like I had the beat and I kind of owned the task at hand, he was then off kind of doing other things. I don't know if you guys remember. I remember they sold this at like Toys R Us 25 years ago. But it was like, it wasn't a Polaroid camera, but it was an instant camera where it came out and it was like, it wasn't as wide or as big as a Polaroid picture. But it also had like a sticky back to it. I don't know. He took a picture that instantly developed and gave it to me. And somehow I know it came home with me, but it's lost to time. But it was a pretty small picture of me drumming. I obviously wish I had that, but I still got the sticks.
Amazing. What a fan like VIP experience that they offered to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
The guitarist got to keep the guitar.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit
Bassist
separate.
got shit. Nothing.
Wow.
But even still, just the experience in and of itself was, I mean, it's not hyperbolic to say life-changing for me in specific ways.
One more question about them, Jordan, as totemic of that experience. Would you remember it all in the same level of detail if they weren't around for you to kind of like jog your memory all your life since you were 15 years old? Do you think? Or
That's
unknowable?
No, I think it would have been just as memorable.
Sure.
But I certainly appreciate having a physical representation of an experience that in many ways felt too good to be true. It's interesting you use the word totemic. Certainly a word I've never used, Neil. So appreciate you showing off today. I was working just before COVID with a public speaking coach. This was a woman who was a VP of one of the most notable like public speaking agencies. So she worked with like people who write books and often appear on TV, and her job was to help book them at the corporate events, keynotes, things like that. So I was working with her as a coach, and she gave me a really long list of questions to consider and to answer before our first session. And she mentioned like a totem piece, and I didn't really know what she meant by that. I'd heard of the term, but I didn't know exactly what she meant in this context. And she just explained simply like a physical object that's of significance or meaning to you. And these sticks were the first thing that came to mind. And part of the value I gained in working with her was her encouraging me to tell more of my personal story as I'm sharing with audiences who I don't know personally and they don't know me personally. But I mean, she was right in that I think the more personal we can make the experience through the lens of adding value to the people we're trying to serve, it can be more resonant with those people and thus more valuable. And these were the sticks that came to mind. And after working with her, because I really never shared the story with many people, and then I realized a story like that could have a lot of value if told and used well, depending on who I'm sharing it with. And this conversation is just another version of that. But back then, 5 years ago, it was a helpful prompt of like, is there a physical object that you have, a totem in her language, that holds some sense of significance? And again, this pair of sticks, like it means so much in so many different ways. And I think that's the spirit of the conversation we're here to have today.
How about you, Neil?
I wonder sometimes, are we all wired in a different way? I mean, I know a lot of people who like to collect whatever it happens to be, action figures, you name it. And I do have collections, but they were never, even from a young age, teens, before the teens, anything like that, things that I was collecting for the sake of wanting to complete a set, for example. Star Wars toys and stuff like that. That's kind of my vintage. Those Kenner toys were in the shops when I was a kid, but I never wanted to collect them for the sake of having them lined up, and certainly not still boxed. I wanted to play with them, because I had the Millennium Falcon, I had the Scout Walker, some of the things that you could put them into and sort of play around with. But I was never really much of a collector. If I kept things, it was because I wanted to use them, play with them, reread them. That went for comic books, which I'm not at this point talking about what our audience would generally take to mean by comic books, as in sort of, Superman number one, obviously would be the thing everybody would prize, I think, above anything else. Or Action Comics number one, and actually, to be precise, before anybody calls in. But in the UK, we had things called the Beano with Dennis the Menace. And the comic books that we had as kids were more kind of just collections of comic strips. And I had piles of them, but they were really for me to sort of just read again. And then I would throw them out and not really care anymore. And I think that has stuck with me to some sense. I have very few things I would call collections. DVD box sets that I happen to have held on to that have been superseded by streaming largely. So they're collecting dust. CDs that I just haven't parted with because I haven't needed to through having to move house, but I don't listen to them because of streaming services. And if I were to move, a lot of them would go. I would have to sort of go through them to see, like, nothing is going to like bring back the sort of memory that Jordan is talking about. But is there anything beyond just the plastic and the ability to play this DVD or this CD or DVD that has meaning to me? And if not, then I don't want to like throw it in the bin, but I would give it to a charity shop or something like that. Books, I feel, are one of the few sort of non-digital items these days that you can kind of have value beyond what they really are. You know, they're paper and ink, but there are ideas and art in them. You can lend them to people. You can get them back. You can write in the margins. I feel it very. I feel like it's almost wrong to throw books in the bin. So again, if I was decluttering with those, I've got tons of books. They would go to a used bookstore or a charity shop. I find it very difficult to think of things that I've collected that I am still collecting or I want to complete, anything like that. When I've moved home in the past, they've really either been thrown out or given away. The one show and tell I have is talking of 2023. Well, I did successfully make it to Toronto in 2023 for Forbidden Door and and actually more importantly for a week in Toronto. I got to meet Wai, I got to meet John, I got to meet an awful lot of postmarks, the ones who were based in Canada, like Davey and Braden and Phil and Eric came down from Sudbury and so on. And a lot who weren't, who were there for the trip, you know, like Brandon from New Jersey and Sino and Frank and a ton of people. Anyway, I've got lots of photographs from that trip, not too many physical objects, but one which I happened to grab at Forbidden Door itself, which is this. I'm going to hold it up to the camera for our YouTube viewers. A Okada $1 million Rainmaker thing that, you know, and there were, of course, hundreds of these falling from the stadium ceiling. It's not even in that good condition. It's sort of a bit beat up and sort of bent and what have you. But, you know, I wouldn't think of selling it on eBay. I don't think I would get much for it, although it does seem to have been made specifically for the event. It's in English and it's got the New Japan logo on it. It's got "In God We Trust" on it and $1 million. And I assume the versions that in New Japan over there fell from the ceiling were yen. You know, I'm guessing anyway, but I don't really care. It's more even than the photographs that I have from that trip. It reminds me of spending the week in Toronto, of meeting people, of the event itself on the Sunday, of spending the week with WH. Most of my spare time was with him, of some of the meals we had. All of it is sort of somehow encapsulated in this piece of paper. And I would not throw this away. So that's just one example of somebody who's not a collector and really not a hoarder. I'm not really attached to physical things.
Interesting. So for you, the value you are receiving from this item is what it represents with your friendships with
Yeah.
various people that you might have met in the post community. For Jordan, the value in those sticks are what it represents perhaps to his ambitions of performing publicly. So that I already find very interesting. I mean, it tells me a whole lot about what is important to you, why you would want those physical items to remind you of those specific things that clearly are things you will often think about, maybe things that represent you. I guess from my perspective, I'm taking things more from like an actual sort of like collectible type of like perspective. And for me, you know, a lot of people know like I'm really into Lego. Like it's in my background. But I will say though, like in recent months, I feel like I am about it like the most disconnected I've been to this hobby in quite some time, and I think so much of that is because I mean I'm very busy with a child right now and children, and that hasn't left as much time for me. Like I have like a backlog of things that I have yet to build, and at some point you just kind of realize, well, what's the point of like buying more things if like I'm not even getting to the stuff I bought from like 2-3 years ago, right? So that's kind of like disconnected me from it. The fact that it's such an expensive like hobby comparatively to like other toys is also a bit of a detractor, especially since like they continue to raise prices, and that's really turned off a lot of the audience. So that in turn has kind of like, I mean, what I love about for me the hobby is that like everything you see like in the background here, I kind of have a very clear sort of story in my mind of how I gathered that object. Some of these things are, out of print. Some of these things are, I guess, just were collected from loose parts that I managed to put together myself. So I have a very clear idea of like where everything got came together. Um, and that to me is almost more the value than actually what it is right now. Like for me, it's the representation of the hunt and the representation of the gathering that I seem to enjoy more. But I'm also at a time right now where like I feel like I can not necessarily part with it, but at least put it away and I wouldn't really be that bothered by it. Um and I've gone through this many times with various things in my life where you just kind of like really get into, for me, at one time it was about collecting. Um, this is going to sound like the nerdiest thing ever, but like parody covers of giant sized X-Men #1. I don't know if that means anything to you. Certainly, I don't think it would mean anything to you, Jordan. But I don't know if you're familiar, Neil, with that particular comic cover.
I
Um,
am.
Okay, great. The debut of like the sort of international team of the X-Men,
Mhm.
meaning like the Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Colossus team. It's got a
So wait,
classic.
so to understand, it's the visual of this specific comic book cover art
Yeah,
in
not even
different iterations, like a pin or a magnet or something like that.
yeah, it's at this point like a very famous comic book cover. And so famous that I think it's been, parodied across various comic books, not just by Marvel, but like other companies
Mhm.
multiple times. And so part of my like sort of fandom of being a comic book fan would be to go to various comic book stores, whether in my city or traveling internationally, and looking through the bins for like these specific parody covers of this specific, like, again, this is if there's any wonder why I didn't have a very active social life um for throughout my 20s. This is the answer why. But like this would be the collection, and I would like I'd spend a lot of time on it. And now I don't really give a shit about any of it. I can't even tell you where I stored it, right?
Do you know
But
what it was about that in particular that was so interesting to you?
I mean, I'm a big fan of the X-Men and of course this particular team. So it's not like I even like the art that much, but I think it's just more the idea that like, okay, I really love this team. I mean, but by extension, I really love this comic book because of what it historically represents, and the fact that there are, I think, so many versions of it out there. It was just my thing. I can't even give you a great specific answer, but my point is, I could put so much effort and love into something and be at a point now where I'm pretty much completely detached from that particular goal. And so I recognize that this is sort of a recurring thing in my life where like I might put a lot of attention and focus into one thing. I'd be completely obsessed with it. And then I just like disengage. I might come back to it in the future, but it it kind of ebbs and flows. And I wonder if other people share that with like the types of intense hobbies that they might have at present time that they might just move on from. And I don't
Can I
know.
can I
Yeah,
chime in
please.
there, way, which is relate to that very much
Mhm.
because I have had collecting phases that have had an expiry date, if you like, a bit like that.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a bit of a Star Trek fan, and I was much more of a Star Trek, like a Trekkie type nerd, who would go to the conventions when they go to the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, England, and I'd go to that. I even dressed up in uniform, once or twice, and I had various different collections of DVD sets, just because I loved Star Trek so much. I still watch it, and I still watch some of the new versions of it that are appearing on Paramount Plus. But it's a hobby and an interest that has waned over time. And one of those things that was a physical collection was sort of these like 5-inch long on a little stand spacecraft collections. So I had the Enterprise, I had the USS Voyager, the Borg cube. This will mean probably nothing to you guys, but
I know
you
what
know,
those things are.
a
Yeah.
Klingon bird of prey, with the green spaceship with the wings, um, and maybe 20 or so of these different spacecraft, different versions of the Enterprise, the next generation Enterprise, those sorts of things. They are now in a bin in storage in the garage, and have been for years, just because they used to be on display in a little kind of background display in my study type place. And I thought, I don't really like them being on display anymore. I'm going to move them. And some of that was possibly they look nerdy. Some of it was just I'm bored of them. I'm bored of looking at them,
So they're in a bin somewhere, but could you ever throw them away or give them away? Are you at that point now?
No, because in fact, they could go back on display at some point. So I'm not closed-minded enough to think that, like you said about the X-Men covers, I could reconnect with it. I think at some point, even talking about it makes me sort of want to go and handle them, go and see them again. But it's the closest thing that I can sort of relate to what you're talking about. Whereas where I was sort of obsessive about it at the time and looking for ones that were difficult to get, and now I don't really ever think about them.
For me, the joy of thinking about like just even this trying to collect these covers is more so just the goal of it and the hunt of it, which I still look back on very fondly. I'd go into a city and the first thing I'd look up is, okay, where's the closest comic book store? It would give me a destination for me to visit. And upon like traveling to the destination, I'd probably like visit a coffee shop next door. I'd have a very clear visual representation of just that trip, and that part I almost kind of miss about it, but it's not even so much about the item anymore. What is an item that each of you may have collected, that you should probably throw out, but for whatever reason you have not yet, or maybe you've been criticized for keeping for too long? Do you have anything like that?
Nothing immediately comes to mind, because what I'm noticing is I'm not resonating as much when you guys are talking about collecting. And like, wait, that even rhymed with you talking about the hobby of Lego, where part of it for you is the hunt or the collection phase of it. And even when I was like a young teen, 13, 14, I got into, quote, collecting Pokemon cards, but it was because I wanted to make money, and it was a business, and it was less about collecting for the sake of just ownership. And that's the point. Even so, I'm going to Disney World a handful of times over the next few months. So one of the big cultural things they have there is pin collecting. And I mean, for some, that could quickly put you into debt. I'm not interested in so much of like collecting pins to keep them. There's a whole pin trading culture where it's just constant opportunities to socialize with different people that work there and other people just at the park if they want to do that. But for me, I think there is still that aspect of the hunt is seeing if just by the end of the day or by the end of the trip, can I leave with a collection of pins that I like more than the ones I currently have? To me, that's interesting. But also a big part of the appeal is just the micro conversations I can have with the people as I'm considering trading or not for these pins. My intent certainly is not to just collect a certain amount of pins to put on display in my home that I can just sit and enjoy. And it's certainly not to collect the most or invest in the most valuable pins that 10 years from now I could make a return on that investment. So I'm trying to think, like, throughout life, I never really got into collecting for the sake of collecting. So I don't really have like a big collection of anything where it's just sitting and taking up space. I do have all 8 original WWF wrestling buddies, and those are 8 things I would never want to get rid of. But I also didn't acquire them because the goal was necessarily to collect them all and hold on to them for the rest of my life. It just so happened I liked them and enough that I guess my mom was like, well, here's the one you don't have and you love it, so let's get it for you. now it has different value for me.
That it's very interesting that you never really kind of had that. Whereas like for me, I grew up with this repeatedly where I just wanted everything of a set. And it started for me with like trading cards, you know, like whether it be like a hockey card or like I don't know, like superhero trading cards, where they give you a checklist, and that checklist is just like it's a great sort of a recipe to create OCD within a young person because
And,
you just want to make sure everything is.
and I think to me, I think there's always part of me that didn't trust that. It felt like a trap. And in a sense, it is a trap to get you to consume more. And there's a feeling of something feels not good, incomplete, unfinished if you don't consume the entirety of the collection. And there's something about that, I think intuitively, I was like, I don't need to fuck with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, capitalism directly will prey on your sort of want to fill in the gap, and yeah, like I've learned that a lot, and in my adulthood I've learned to be a lot more sort of you know, like be okay with not necessarily an incomplete collection, but what does complete mean for you? You know, what is complete
That's interesting. So I think my version of that, my what could be described as obsessional behaviors or an intensity of focus throughout life has been collecting experiences that feel meaningful for me. So whether at various points of life that was taking a band I was in to a certain level or having certain experiences, working as a part of Ring of Honor in a certain way. That was many years before I was even offered an opportunity of like obsessional, self-directed focus of trying to inch myself closer to that happening. So I think bigger picture, I especially as an adult have often thought, what are a collection of meaningful experiences that I want to have before I die, and less so physical possessions to own that I'm not taking with me to the grave.
Yeah. To go back to your original question, Wai, I find it very difficult to think of things I should throw out, or anyone would tell me that I should throw out that I haven't already. I feel like I don't have that many things I'm emotionally attached to in that way. Probably I've never been that much of a fashionista ever. But I do have. I know it's really difficult to look at this guy. It's really difficult to believe. But there are certainly probably some old clothes that people might think that should go. Like I remember, I used to enjoy the OC, the TV show, and Seth used to wear this brown zip-up track top, and I'm quite fond of my track tops. I'm not wearing one today, but I usually am. And this thing was a East German military track top. And you used to be able to get these things from sort of military. That's the exact thing. I could go and grab it now, but I won't. It's brown, it's zip up, and it's got yellow and red stripes the whole way down the sides. And I was taken with this and thought, and it's got a nice little badge as well, which is just out of.
Did you buy it because you were an OC fan? Did you look specifically for this track top?
I thought this was a cool look, and I liked the top, and it was quite easy to get. Myself being in Europe, these things were in circulation. You could get them fairly easily, and they were legitimate. You know, they had German size labels and so on. And I still have that jacket, and there are photographs of me from not very long ago wearing it. I've kept it rather in good condition. I'm sure it's horribly out of fashion, but I don't really care.
Neil, is that Hot Rabbi?
That is Hot Rabbi Adam Brody. Yeah, he's the Hot Rabbi from a popular Netflix show. Is it Nobody Wants This or Nobody?
That sounds right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Just on this question, I mean, you reminded me, Jordan, of why we started this topic in the first place, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. But I was talking about my family, and I come from a family of hoarders. Like it's awful, and I guess since moving out, because I've kind of lived in that sort of environment, I've been a lot more conscious of not filling my house with too much stuff. So maybe that's why, like, for me, it's not that big of a problem yet. Um, that doesn't mean that I still struggle sometimes with tossing things out. I certainly acquire a lot more than I do toss out. And one of the things that I won't toss out is this shirt, which is my Toronto Blue Jays shirt from 1993, 1994. And I must have bought a really large size, or I must have had really trouble growing a lot since 1993 because it still fits me like perfectly. And my wife gets on me because there's a hole in it, and like, she's like, "What? How could you wear that out? It's like faded, and like you're like it's embarrassing for her sometimes. Because she is somebody who takes fashion very seriously. But for me, it's just like it's comfortable and it represents just a big moment, really, in my lifetime with my fandom of this particular team that I just don't care about that much now. Still, it's a great shirt. But I am very curious to hear from people who maybe live with this being a bigger issue for them, like people who might have so much stuff in their house to the point where it becomes an actual problem. So if you guys have any thoughts, whether if you want to just talk about the great collections that you might have, perhaps in your background of your house right now, or maybe there's something, another thought that might be jogging, from your minds as a result of this conversation, call us right now. The link is in the chat room, or it's also in the emails that have been sent to your Patreon inboxes. And I shall post it out there right now one more time for all of you guys. So let's get to some of our phone calls because we actually have a lot of them right now. Let's go to, first of all, Andrew. Hey, Andrew. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey,
What's up,
what's
bud?
going on?
Much and just I heard this topic. I was at the gym today listening to I think it was Rewind or Wild, and I was like, this topic came up, and I'm like, wow, I have so many. Like maybe I can bring up some of my other collections, like my games or my VHSs, and then I realized I actually have a ton of things that count as collectibles. So it's like I moved my camera a certain way, and like one of the things I was digging through this whole time was when I go traveling, I like to keep money
Andrew,
from
if you don't mind just lowering your mic just so we can get a bit.
Sorry,
bit
yeah,
closer. There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I like to keep money from everywhere I've gone, and I was just digging through all of this stuff. Like I got actually a 1 pound note from England, which I don't think they're in circulation very much anymore.
They haven't been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
The 1 pound coin replaced them, I think, 20 something years ago.
Yeah, because I first went to England in 2004, and I have the people who I stayed with, they get me a Liverpool. It's not very visible. I'm sorry. A Liverpool jersey for when I was staying there, and they put my name on it. So yeah, and the other big thing I like with travel is, if you could see in the background, I have flags all across, and it goes through like a large portion of the top of the house there, or the top of the ceiling, and those are from everywhere I've been. And like I'm
Wow.
really big into trying to keep that, those memories alive. Like when I do that.
Amazing.
That's
What
great.
what about those shelves? Care to explain what we're seeing? I'm noticing a lot of video games. I'm assuming is it VHS?
Yeah. So this was brought up on the episode I was on with the Around the World, which there.
Yeah.
But like a lot of my VHS tapes that I got, a lot of
Oh,
these were
wow.
actually from the 2000s. And I haven't like collected many VHS tapes. I also have a number of these are DVD. Like the games are down there. I was considering whether to do this on my phone or on the computer here, but I don't want to just do the whole like show and tell around the room. I might post pictures later. But those, when I started working in 2006 at West, uh, they would have like bins at Walmart of these DVDs. So I would buy a lot of like DVDs like of the pay-per-views from the mid 2000s. So I have, yeah, most of those are from like 2003 to 2006 for the DVDs, and the VHSs are from the 80s up to 2001, 2002.
And is it all wrestling related?
Yes. Well, yes. There's
Okay.
some like DVD box sets from The Simpsons and like Family Guy, The Fresh Prince, but those again when DVD box sets were a thing.
How many
Interesting.
TVs do you have in this one room?
I have three. I have the cuz basically God, I don't want to crush my dog here who's underneath me.
No, we
So,
can see. We can see.
Oh,
um,
you collect dogs too?
well, I just have the one. Yeah, but so basically, I was inspired with the video game consoles on the TV. I was inspired by the Angry Video Game Nerd. From like, and he was big in the late he's still around, but he was bigger in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and that's kind of where I got the inspiration for collecting video games as well. It's not as extreme. Like you brought up the whole like complete collectors, and I know this one person I used to follow, Pat the NES Punk. He's one of the few people who has a full NES collection, which is about 800 to 900 games.
Damn.
But something like that is just extremely difficult to attain. Like the closest I have is like I have like well over 100 Nintendo 64 games, so that's probably the closest that I have. But like,
so what are the 3 TVs for? Like, what's
okay,
it
so a lot of the TVs, they're CRT TVs. So the first one, that one there, I got that at like a thrift store for $5, and it's just a nice working, like, because a lot of these TVs, you know, they don't work anymore or they're just being dumped, and a lot of competitions, like I know with Super Smash Brothers Melee is big, but they always play it on the CRT TVs just because it's just, I'm trying to think what it is. It's just like the inputs are like match like the screen a lot easier.
The frame rate, like, is it?
Yeah, frame rate. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
All right.
the TV there, that's a newer one. I went to the recycling depot and I saw that and I just got it for free. So I was like, well, I got a free TV, might as well use it. And you know, instead of just throwing it out, and it still works. It's still, but like it's just instead of trying to bunch all of the systems up to one TV, I just find it easier to attach them to 2 different TVs.
That makes a lot of sense for the convenience of it.
I will say, for as much stuff as you have in this one room, it's remarkably organized.
Oh yeah.
So,
Like,
this to me is the difference between, somebody's collection and also and a hoarder, right?
Yeah.
Organization to me, like knowing exactly where something is and valuing that item rather than just kind of having it around and being in your way and other people's way. That to me is a main driver. Like, you must spend a lot of time with the organization aspect.
Not
right?
really. Like I haven't like I was at work for a while from like March through to June. So and I go to work a lot, but it's a lot of these have been collected over the years. Like a lot of stuff was originally at my parents' house, and when I bought my first house, I took a bunch of that stuff that was in my old bedroom and I brought it to this my first house that I bought, and then I sold that and got this one. Like for example, like my bed that I slept in when I was a kid, I have that. There's that that chair with the pink seat on it. That was in my house in the 90s, like when we like in the early 90s. There's another table that I have from the early 90s and a bunch of shelving, and like I have like a dresser set that my parents had in their room for a while, and then I took that over. And so basically, lot of this.
Why do you have them? Why do you have those things?
I just like them. I like
Sentimental value.
Yeah, it's a sentimental value.
Okay.
It's like, for example, my brother and I had bunk beds, so they still have my brother's bed downstairs, and I was like, well, can I have that? And they're like, well, why don't you just get a new bunk bed set? I was like, I don't want that. I want that one. that was at my house there. That was at my
Interesting.
parents' house right now.
And is it like, I mean, is it functional or?
Oh
or is
yeah,
it
I just sleep. Yeah, like it's in the spare room, but you can sleep in it.
interesting. Wow.
For how much?
Well, I don't charge Airbnb. Like I've had letting people stay in the house has not been a good idea. There are some items, like when I went to Europe this past year or last year, were stolen. And some and I'm a very sentimental person, so none of this stuff is worth more, probably $200, $300 altogether. Like I can make that 2 hours at work. But like the worst thing that got stolen was there was these old WWF cards from '87, and they're on eBay. They were worth about $100. They're beat up, and they have like gum in them, which is a great party favor. So or party trick. I would like chew the 30-year-old gum, and it just like falls apart. But that was given to me by my uncle, whose son, my cousin, passed away in 2011. So that got stolen. I was pretty pissed, as you can imagine. I had some Pokemon cards. I had so in the 90s they would sell peanut butter in these little jars here, and they stole my Hulk Hogan one. But of course, old brother Brudai, he ain't worth nothing. So
Okay.
I kept that.
Wait, there was peanut butter in these?
Oh yeah, this had peanut butter in it, and there was like this Demolition and Hulk Hogan, and they sold these in the early 90s.
I'm
This is
gonna have
from-
to look that up.
It's actually from 1988.
Talk about like just monetizing everything under the sun, like fucking peanut butter with
Yeah.
Brutus the Barber beefcake on it.
Yeah.
Andrew, clearly, you're somebody who, I mean, like sees a lot of value in just the things in your life, right? I'm very curious to know though, and again, coming from like a family of hoarders, like where do you draw the line of what you might say no to? Like, is there a wrestling tape where you're just like, that doesn't fit in my collection? I
Oh
don't
no,
need
no,
it."
not the only issue with my the only things I hoard, they're not here, but I have a nice storage room, which is helpful, and that has a lot of cords that because I was looking to try to sell like refurbish and sell old consoles. So what I would do was I would buy like old cords, and I never got to selling those consoles. So I have like a backlog of cords. I have a lot of controllers for NES, Super Nintendo, 64, all that stuff. And that kind of builds up over time, especially as we get new generation, consoles. So I have like the Wii U controllers, I have PS3 controllers, but you've got to get new consoles. So now I have a bunch of stuff for the Nintendo Switch, and now I got the Switch too.
So you're saying it's not an issue because you happen to have extra space to store
Yeah,
those things?
I have in my storage room, I have a lot of room, and there's some stuff I should throw away, like some of the stuff I got from my parents' house were old Christmas decorations, and I haven't, and like Halloween decorations and stuff like that, and I haven't decorated my house for Christmas and Halloween in years, so they're kind of just sitting there. But there's other stuff like that I took from my parents, which were like report cards from like grade primary through to grade 6. So I have all that in my house, in my storage room.
So
Okay.
that's interesting you mentioned that. So when my parents sold my childhood home 4 years ago, I mean, for me, it was like nearly 35 years worth of physical possessions that added up, including, like report cards or book reports from when I was 8 years old. And it was a lot of deciding, do I keep this or not? And if not, a lot of these things certainly wouldn't be donated or sold. And so my process with those things, especially the stuff from grade school, was I spent a few nights and added up like many hours of like, let me look at this stuff. Let me read it. Let me get a sense of what 7-year-old Jordan was like at the time, or what the teachers were communicating to my parents about 7-year-old Jordan. And it was really, really lovely. And I guess part of my process was, I know I don't want to keep this in perpetuity. So let me actually spend some time with it and connect with it in this current version of Jordan as it is. And let me, by doing so, it's kind of like I'm respecting it, I'm honoring it, I'm not regarding it as trash per se, but I had the experience of it, and then even with certain things, like I would in my own head like honor it, thank it even for what it offered me. And then there was a sense of, let's say, like a more mindful approach to throwing shit away. And for me at that time in life, that was a process that worked for me and felt more meaningful than not. Because again, it's like, as with every day, we're seemingly collecting more things, and it will always be a question of what becomes of this stuff at some point in the future.
And you don't regret at this moment throwing that stuff away?
there's like two things, and it was a relatively quick move for the amount of stuff. And I have just a lot of drums, and so even initially, like I had different drum sets at different friends' homes or warehouse spaces, and so things that dated back that old that didn't have functional value, like book reports.
The function would be like you reminiscing about, I guess, that particular effort.
Exactly, which might be cute or nice, 15 years from now with a new person who never experienced it. There were like two things that came to mind where I kind of got into a mindset where I was like, fuck it, let me honor it and dump it. And that worked in large part. One of my bands from 20 years ago, we had a really large banner that a fan and her mom hand stitched for us, and we would hang that behind us when we performed. I just threw that away, and like that's the main thing that comes to mind of like, fuck, I could have just folded it and it wouldn't have taken up much room at all, and that would have been nice to still have held on to. But besides that, maybe one other thing.
Well, just even that, I think says a lot, because that is something that is directly tied to something that I would say is a core part of your present identity, and that again goes back to your musicianship, right?
Yeah.
That still fits into who you are today. That would you say?
And yeah, of course. And like behind me, you probably can't make it out, but there's a small poster with that stands up that was promo for that band and the album that would be displayed in Hot Topic or wherever the record was sold. And I have like a couple physical possessions that represent that specific band, just like I have this G1 Supercard poster behind me. I have a couple turnbuckle pads from Ring of Honor signed by Talent. And so I have a handful of Ring of Honor possessions that are the things that I would like to hold on to until I die. But I mean, there are hundreds of things while I worked there or while I was in a particular band that were collected during my time. And most of it was either given away or thrown away. But with each of these, let's say, projects of life of meaning or significance, with each, there's like a handful of physical possessions that for me best represent this is something I once did. Here's evidence of it.
Andrew, thank you very much for sharing and being generous with your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Let's go to some of these other callers who are waiting very patiently. Let's go to Randy. Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Hey guys, I'm Randy. I'm a professional hoarder. Thank you for doing the show all the time.
An expert.
And thank you for doing the show. Is always great. I always enjoy watching it, so on and so forth. And your topics are great. I got three reasons I think why I collect, and you guys more or less covered them.
Just to note, Randy, your connection is not very good. It seems to be breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
So you can try to maybe give us like a condensed version of what you want to say. Otherwise, you could try calling in with another connection if that's what you prefer.
Okay, I'll do my best. I apologize then for that. Three reasons why I collect: core memories that are good from the past. They could be when you open something up, a certain smell or something going on in the environment around you that you remember. I collect comics, figures, and TV memorabilia, I guess you can say. And in turn, by saying that, why I started collecting comics is my brother was sick. And every single time we went to the doctors after, we get a comic. I wasn't sick, but he would get a comic. So for a year there, we kept doing it, getting comics over and over and over again. And my brother got smart. After a year goes by, you get one comic and get the same three comics the three times that he went to visit the doctor. And what he would do is he'd keep one comic for himself, and then a couple of months down the road, he'd either trade the other two if they get up at higher value, so on and so forth, and get more comics. We did that for comics, toys, and collectibles. But again, on certain things, it was times or experiences or smells that definitely why I core collect. Like, I don't know if you can see, like all my comics on the wall there, the top are Captain Carrot. They have no value. but only of value to me because that was what I used to read as a kid.
Randy,
So,
quick question.
I don't know. That's most of a collecting. And you get adult money and you just want to relive your past. I
Randy,
apologize for my connection if it's bad.
It's pretty good at the minute. Quick question, Randy, if you can hear me. There seems to be two.
Sorry. I'll have to disconnect. I'll come back. Sorry if you guys want me to. I apologize. Sorry.
It's okay. All good.
No worries.
Is it a question for the group or specific?
No, it was a question for Randy. Okay. There looked like there were two gaps on that wall of comic books, and I was going to ask him is he looking to fill those with something specific.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on here. In the meantime, let's go to Corey. Welcome back to the show, Corey.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well.
Hey, what's going on?
Corey.
You too, Corey.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a topic that's very, very close to me as far as just like someone who has existed in many spheres and subcultures. I would say, as of my 34th year on this earth, my major collections boil down to, I would say, three main things. Everything else is sort of like, I would say curated ephemera. I have like a small stack of coffee table books. Do I consider it a collection? I guess, yeah. I mean, but then again, everything's a collection. But you could say anything is a collection. But
is
I don't
anything
consider
a
it that.
collection? Can we actually say that? How do you define a collection?
Well, I mean, in this case, it is a curated set of specific items. I guess I would call that a collection, but I don't necessarily consider it one. It's
Like
weird.
I have like a bunch of shoes. Like would that be considered a collection? I have a bunch of like jackets. Is that a collection of jackets?
I guess it is the effort that you assign to it. I do think that collections, for the most part, are. I mean, like ideally, a collection is something you put effort into, right? I do think that they are labors of love, maybe sometimes labors of compulsion, but so yeah. But I would say my three major collections that I have are clothing, music, and cards, specifically Magic the Gathering cards. When you guys were talking about kind of like trimming the fat of your collections, I was thinking about these three major spheres in my life and kind of my relation to them and how easily I could maybe cut them out of my life. My mind immediately went to my Magic the Gathering cards because it is probably the collection that takes up a lot of space. And the one that I have, I guess, maybe the least amount of connection to, but also some of the most nostalgic connection. Um, I have been playing Magic the Gathering for 2/3 of my life. I have been playing it with my friends in various capacities. My interest in it has ebbed and flowed over the years, and right now it has been at like an all-time low. Um, when I look at my relationship with Magic the Gathering now, I see it very much as a competitive game and not necessarily an extension of sort of self-expression the way I used to look at it when I was a kid, when I would make my own decks and not look stuff up online, and very much this extension of myself, and I would play with my friends, and it would kind of this be like not only a competitive game but sort of like showing our own creativity to each other. And as I've gotten older, I've had less time to build decks myself. I've found that it's much easier to kind of, just play for the sheer like competitive joy of it, because I do think it is one of the great games ever made. But I look at this collection of just like cards that are worth nothing, just like boxes on them, and I know when my next move comes, that stuff's staying behind and I'm selling it. The only cards I am keeping are the ones that I have created specific decks for so I can play with my friends. Um, that is something I've made my peace with. The decks, like I have a deck that I have been tweaking for the better part of 20 years. It is a deck that I still play with like my oldest friend. I'm his fucking best man. And whenever we get the chance, we will break those out. These things that we have tweaked over the course of like most of our lives, our most formative years, and play games with each other. And there's still some of the most like stimulating gameplay I could ask for when we play.
I guess I just have a question about Magic. I've never played
Yeah.
Magic,
Yes.
yeah, but like, so a deck consists of just like your collection of cards that you want to
Yes,
play
a
often.
deck consists of 60 cards that are made to achieve a specific kind of strategy. It is two players playing against each other. They have 20 life. Cards do damage. Get them to 0 and win.
So it's not the type of thing where you would feel the want to switch out cards in your deck every time you play. You'd be happy with these 60 for the rest of your
So,
life.
so over the course of like the 20 years, I have switched cards out. It is always to optimize a strategy. But even though it is, I would say, a bit of a ship of Theseus at this point, it is still like at the core of it, the thing that I have been building since I was like 11, you know?
You've been
So
after
like,
this specific strategy since you were 11. You
yes.
perfected it.
Yes, yes.
I see.
Um, Everything else, all of my other cards are secondary to this very specific thing. I could very easily get rid of the rest of my Magic the Gathering collection if I could just retain like these couple of decks that I have been tweaking because to me they are exemplifying like my evolution weirdly my evolution as a person, but also like it is 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the future, 1 foot in the present. That's 3 feet. And yeah, it's just it's always it always goes back to self-expression, right? And that goes into my other two collections, clothing and music. um I have spent more money on clothing than music than any other thing in my life, besides like medical bills, probably. But I I have over like God, like over 300 CDs.
Mhm.
I only have a handful of vinyl records. I'm more of a CD collector. Um,
And when we're
I
talking about
Yeah,
collection,
yeah.
are we like how often are you engaging with the CDs versus streaming these days?
So I have a personal media server. I rip all my CDs to that media server and I can stream those specific songs on my phone.
Okay.
So I am streaming, but I am streaming my own collection.
So you could still get the value of the music if you lost that collection today,
Exactly.
right? Okay.
Exactly, because I will always have the physical backup of the CDs.
Okay.
And that is
So
something I like. So my thing is, and maybe this is a self justification. I find the collection of music to be a noble endeavor, uh, and that is because we live in an age where media has never been more ephemeral.
Mhm.
I will
Yeah.
continue to buy CDs because they are physical. They will exist when the streaming services die. When things get taken off, I will still have the CD. I will still have my media server. If my media server dies, I'll still have the CD. I can always build a new one. But as long as I have that jewel case, like that's that it's and it's not just like and it's not just like the album itself, it is the physical document of like recording, right? Like it is proof that a thing existed. The whole reason I started my label was because I wanted to create physical versions of my friends' music that never got a physical release. Just because one day Bandcamp will blow up. And I hope it's not soon, but one day Bandcamp will blow up. And I would hope to God that my friends have some form of physical like proof that their shit existed.
yeah, I guess my question is, okay, Bandcamp might blow up, Spotify might go away, YouTube might go away. Um, I guess is that more likely, or is it more likely that you will have trouble finding a CD player to play those CDs, or set of speakers with the specific type of RCA connection that would work with those CD players? Like, is
Yeah,
that
so thankfully USB DVD disk drives are pretty easy to find. You can just get one on Amazon for like 50 bucks. And I rip all my CDs with that and they sound perfectly fine. Um, so thankfully CD like disk drives are still like commonplace enough. Dedicated CD players like a Walkman or something, a little bit harder. But at this point, our computers are also our stereos.
I feel like this is a topic we may have had on a music episode, but certainly like the connection that I think like somebody could have with an album is a very different experience when you're holding it in your hands, lining up in
Yeah,
front of the store to buy it versus just like hitting a button, right?
Yeah,
And
I
just
absolutely.
think I've
scrolling
said
through
this.
it.
Apologies. I think I've said this before. Where I think it's in large part responsible for the resurgence of vinyl as well, because people talk about the warmer sound quality of vinyl, but I think unless you've got what are called golden ears and you're sort of in your teenage, a lot of us can't really. It's like compressed music files.
Yeah,
If you've ever done the blind test online of what's lossless and what's not, I personally, who think I've got decent hearing, it's a crapshoot for me. I cannot tell a lossless from the compressed. But I think to have this sort of 12 or 13-inch square piece of art in the form of the cover means something. Also with digital media, a lot of the time with streaming, and even books on a Kindle, you're not buying, technically and legally speaking,
yeah,
you're buying a
hmm
license to
yeah,
to listen or to read or to watch. You don't own it in the sense that you can
yeah.
lend it to somebody, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, like, this is my MP3 player. This is my iPod, a refurbished iPod with 256 gigabytes of SSD on there. I don't really like. For me, it's less about like I still convert to MP3. Like for me, it is just simply the fact that I have some kind of like digital backup of everything. It's like the highest quality MP3 you can rip to, but for me, it's more about just like having the music there, and I mean, like, most of the stuff I listen to sounds like shit anyway, so like, I'm not too picky about that. But music to me, just to tie this all back to kind of my main thing, it is, I mean, it's self expression. My collection, the way I curate it. I mean, even if it's like 300 CDs deep, it's all like a fragment of what I value in sound, what I value in aesthetics, and that dovetails perfectly into like fashion. I got deeply into fashion in a way that I never saw myself. Well, I mean, I guess I did when in the late 2010s. In college, I was an avid Tumblr user, and I followed a bunch of just like blogs that posted like old photos of just like people wearing cool clothing, and I became fascinated with it. Something I couldn't afford. When I finally got a salaried job, I was able to finally invest in these like pieces that I have looked out for so long, scouring, like obscure uh Yahoo auctions in Japan, trying to buy specific articles of clothing. I have a 1999 Helmet Lang jacket that Liam Gallagher was once there's a picture of Liam Gallagher wearing it, and it's like a jacket that lived rent free in my head for years. Trent Reznor wore the same jacket. Like it's just like I thought it was the coolest looking thing. It's in my closet and I own it. And then whenever fall like comes around, I always throw it on. Like it's one of my favorite pieces of clothing.
Interesting. So it all for you ties into self-expression, and maybe that's
Yes,
what it means for all of us who might have any sort of collection of physical items or experiences. I mean, in the end, these are things that just represent our lives, isn't it? And
absolutely.
yeah, thank you very much, Corey, as always,
Of
for sharing.
course. Have a good
Thank
one,
you,
guys.
Corey. You
Appreciate
too,
it,
bud.
Corey.
I googled Ship of Theseus, so I appreciate him offering that. Wait, do you still have your CDs, and Neil, do you still have your 8-track tapes?
I do have my CDs.
CDs and some cassettes, even, Jordan. But
Yeah, I do have some CDs, but not here, like at my parents' house, and I do wonder if those are items that I would ever choose to part with. I mean, some of them, sure, but a lot of them represent like a clear sort of like part of my life. More importantly, for me, it's the mixtapes and the mix CDs that
Mm.
I don't think I'd ever want to part with, because those even more so represent a certain time in my life, and I would put a lot of effort into like making custom cover art and like drawing on the CDs and all that.
Oh, wow.
So that's not something I'd probably ever part with.
That's
was a
interesting. Sorry, wait, that way you went to that that level of just the project of creating a mix CD to create your own art. Because my initial thought was, I think I got rid of just about all my physical music 4 years ago. And there's times where I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to look at the cover art of that actual album release. But in general, I'm not bothered by the fact that that was physical stuff I was willing to cut bait on. So when you were saying that way, like the mix CDs, I'm thinking, wouldn't you rather have the quote real thing with the art and all the stuff that comes with the physical product? But you're saying you just created your own version of that stuff.
Yeah, or at least like a version of it that is a bit more personal to me. Yeah, it wasn't just it wasn't just a case for me of like, hey, here are a bunch of MP3s on a disc and it's a blank CD. I read the name of the CD. Like I did treat these as projects, and I would like use specific software to pick like the perfect crossfade between them. I'd like structure them in an order that would sound good. So I'd put probably way more effort than most people would for something like this.
Yeah. Some of the CDs I'm least likely to part with are not official at all. They're things I made myself. Or there was a record store in my local town that, example, when I was at my most highest fandom rate of Nirvana, I had everything official that they had ever issued. But this record store had bootleg stuff, and it was terrible recordings of demo tapes, burned onto a CD with some DIY artwork. And they're the only ones I bust out now and again because obviously they're not on any streaming services. So I suppose that also leads you into counterfeit.
It's not on YouTube?
Versus, not that I can find.
Maybe it's your responsibility, Neil, to put some of that stuff on the Internet Archive for the world to enjoy. Interesting. Let's go to some of these other calls. Again, we thank you guys for your patience. Let's go to Hansi. Hey, Hansi. What's up?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Hey, Hansi.
Nice to talk to you.
It's been a while.
Hey.
Yeah, I know, man. I've been, just doing a bunch of stuff, basically. No, I used to, I wouldn't say I was a collector, but, I used to have, wrestling figures and, videotapes and CDs and all that, right? But then at a certain point, it became, if I have a collection, if I'm not doing anything with the collection, it feels like I'm being useless with the collection. So in the digital era, I'm one of those guys that never had sentimental value to keep things. And I kind of regret it knowing that a lot of you guys have a lot of your collections, and you have I just have a basic layout at my home, and I don't really, it's mostly, I think the most thing that I'm collecting now, and this might sound weird, I'm collecting thoughts, because any thought that I think of, I jot it down in a journal, whether it's irrational and all that. So I basically have documents and notes on my phone for potential material, because I feel like if I don't keep adding to those thoughts, then I'm gonna run out of material. I don't even get a chance to write material often, at times. But I feel like I'm hoarding thoughts because I might need to go to this thought later on, basically. So I think in the last decade, last 15 years, I've been more hoarding notepads that I used to have a journal entry, but now I do it digitally. So that's kind of, I think, I think because we're moving into a more digital world where things are going to be more mental in the future with all the technology. If you watch a lot of Black Mirror, obviously. So I feel like I'm hoarding those kind of thoughts more so than actual physical items, I guess. I guess I'm looking at things differently in that regard, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, totally. And I don't think it's something you should feel bad about. I mean, in the end, what we're talking about is self-expression. And for a lot of us, we express ourselves, we're trying to get what's out of our heads into ourselves because it's what's going on in our heads. And it might be in the form of, I don't know, a video game collection or a Lego collection or something like that. For you, you're trying to get out of your head words, and that's how it comes out, is you writing it. I guess I'm curious to know why you are calling it hoarding thoughts rather than collecting thoughts. Is there a level of organization that you wish you had with?
Well, no, I think in a way is that if I have so what I do, what I give as advice to a lot of people in the comedy world that deal with mental illness, and they're always, because they see me even though I'm depressed a little bit of time, I am able to still like be a little bit more present and not be like completely like not be a completely downer on the whole social situation. So what I tell them to do is I go, if you have an irrational thought throughout the day, just jot down your irrational thoughts and then later on go and confront them, because sometimes I'm afraid to confront my irrational thoughts and I have them about like everyone that I might interact with, and for better or worse, like I go through that, I confront it, so I don't have to fucking feel like I feel like I'm more mentally strong if like somebody's trying to bust my balls or trying to like pile on to me in situations, whatever. So I give people that advice, and people are like, oh yeah, that works. Because when I say to somebody, hey, write a journal, people think that's basic. They don't know like what that entails, whatever, right? But for me, it's if you have an irrational thought, even if it's like really dark, you gotta confront it and jot it down, and kind of go at it a little bit and confront your irrational thoughts. Otherwise, they're just gonna keep building up the more you try to hide from it. Because if you hide from your irrational thoughts, I feel like if somebody like tries to trigger you, you'll snap even more, kind of in a way, right? So I just do it for mental prevention of like, people kind of piling on you. So if you guys ever have any of those kind of things, whatever, just try to jot down your irrational thoughts throughout the day, and then try to write down and confront it. It's not for the intention of being creative or being funny. It's more about just writing down your thoughts and just trying to structure them a lot better, basically, so you can explain things better. Like right now, like I'm like, I feel guilty that like I'm already putting out these thoughts in my head. So now I'm going to go back to my journal entry and now recap what I talked about with you guys, because now I can't let any thoughts escape to be free. I have to have a record of that thought that I put out, if that makes sense.
Well, you certainly have documented it on YouTube by expressing it, but I understand if you have your process, and it makes sense. Look, when we are documenting our thoughts or our ideas, whether it's because you want to pull from source material if you're looking for a comedy bit, or if you're trying to write about something in the future, or for the reasons you're talking about, Hansi, more specifically, like when we document, and I get this from this incredible drummer from Germany, Benny Greb, who I've spent some time with. He's the most impressive educator and artist I've ever worked with. He uses the term making the immaterial material. So immaterial, the world of thoughts, whether true or not, whether irrational or not, whether helpful or not. When we make the immaterial material by writing them down, we are objectifying them. We're creating an object, and that can help us maybe in the moment or the next day to come back to those thoughts on paper from a more objective viewpoint, where we're not so much identifying with the thought in the moment, but we can look at it, create a bit of distance from ourselves in that moment to the thought documented. And then maybe there's enough room to consider, is that rational or not? Is that truthful or not? Is that helpful or not? And if the answer is no to those things, then maybe it's a thought that we could work toward letting go of. And letting go of could be as symbolic as writing it down and discarding it, or just knowing it's there if we ever need to come back to it, but it doesn't need to live rent-free in our head, as difficult as that may be for some of us.
No, I thought I was gonna be a weirdo coming in here with this topic of like how I collect stuff, whatever. But no, you actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because now it makes me feel like I'm not like super weird about it. But I've enjoyed I enjoyed all the callers as well, because of I envy a lot of you guys, because I really do miss like have like wait, when you have your like Lego collection, right? Like part of me wishes that I used to do Lego as well, but I used to think it was childish, and I just gave up on that. And now I look at like you having a Lego collection or a record collection and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, man, I really feel like I should have been doing that, because now I feel like I've been wasting time with my stuff. But I learned a lot from you guys, but I miss talking to you guys. I know we don't get to talk often, so I wanted to call in. I didn't know if I was going to add anything, but thank you for letting me come up, man. It's always good to see you guys, man.
You
You
too.
too,
Thank you,
Hansi.
Hansi. Yeah, it's always nice catching up with you as well. And it's never too late to start your Lego collection. All right, no matter how old you are. Let's go. Lastly, here to Aram.
Uh-oh.
Hey,
Hey,
can you hear
Aram.
me?
Yes, we can.
Greetings, Aram.
We're getting a tour, live walk and talk from
Are
Aram.
you still on
No,
vacation?
no. I'm back at home. I was only for a weekend.
So what's going on, Aram? What are you
It's
showing
my
us off?
it's
What are you showing off
no,
in your
it's
house?
my dogs hearing some voices. That's why. No, I'm actually making late night food for my kid. Um, I'm doing like a falafel sandwich for him. Um, I was waiting so long. I thought I might as well do some dinner for him.
Apologies
Uh,
for the
You're
wait.
wise.
What would you like to share about this conversation?
for once, I actually know the topic, and yeah, yeah. But then I thought about what I do collect. So, and I'm like you, Way. I don't even collect anything anymore after having a family.
Well, what does
Um,
your kid collect? I'm kind of curious. Does your child have any?
that yeah, he collects like European football cards, basketball cards, games. But that's what I'm going to show you. He collects like football jerseys, like
Mm.
European football
Okay,
jerseys.
interesting.
And Neil will know that that'll probably make me broke real quick.
Yes, football clubs are
And
not
actually,
do not create bargains with their shirts. That's for sure.
no, and like what I hope for you, Way, is that you can give your Lego to pass it on to your kids. I actually only have one shirt left that he can fit. Um,
Yeah.
and I thought about like what I collect these days, but it seems like it's what me and my wife collects. But then I realized it's maybe just she collects and I tag along.
So you've lost all
Uh,
identity in your older age, Aram. Um,
exactly. But I did find one.
what does your wife collect? I'm curious. Um,
Oh my God, man. Yeah, you can look. You can get the whole tour. She collects like paintings,
Oh,
like
that's nice.
Yeah.
oh
these
wow.
these sculptures, like from the
Ceramic
Swedish
mushrooms.
woods. Yeah, it's like all you can find in the Swedish woods, and like yeah,
Okay.
Where is
and
she right now?
I don't. She's out walking with her best friend, talking probably about how horrible of a husband I am. Um,
As
um,
her husband
but
shows off her collection of like ceramic mushrooms
oh
on
man, it's
YouTube.
like yeah, and ew, yeah, she collects these dumb horses too. Like these are like Swedish traditional horses. These are like $100 a piece. If you
Wow, yeah, that's pretty dumb.
yeah, they are made like from north of Sweden,
Hmm. So do
but
you know what do these $100 horses say about her sense of self?
oh. I don't hope she finds this YouTube channel any at
I
all.
doubt she will.
Like you would know, but I did found one thing that I collect, like this for my identity, that I hid it, like I refuse to throw away, and it's like some of my old gear from when
Oh,
I was
Oh yeah.
active,
yes.
and
All right.
yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to my son. Even these.
Your cup.
So for audio listeners, Aram is showing off his Muay Thai gloves and shorts and cup that he hopes to pass on to his child.
Lovely.
Yeah, she wanted me to throw all, but I told her like, hey, these are like board shorts. I can use them on the beach. And so
Ram, was this all laid out on the floor to show us, or it just stays there?
no, to show you guys, I have to like get rid of this before she comes back.
So
Nice.
clearly, Aram, like I mean, no matter maybe how far apart from that moment you are now, it is still like a core part of your identity, right? Your time as a combat sports practitioner.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But as you get older, I try to like hold on to it because you feel like you forget about it. And luckily, my son always asked me about before I got fed, like as he says. So
What was the last time you used them, or like when was the last time you used those gloves in shorts?
oh well, I still have like a what's called a bag I can punch on here in my basement,
Mm-hmm.
and but not the tie shots. It seems weird, but that's just but my boxing gloves I still use, and I still hold pads with my kid. So
Okay.
I have in some sense, but
There's
I
still
do that.
function to the items. You're not just holding on to them for sentimental value.
No, no. Well, maybe the tie shots, maybe, but I do really regret because I had so much more when I was younger, and when I see all these listeners showing off, I feel like shit. That's probably me when I was like much younger, and I have like no recollection of who I gave them to or like who I've
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the sad part about it because I feel like if you like collect something, you'll want to pass it away to somebody who will appreciate it like once.
Mm-hmm.
All I collect right now is like I collect like all the white male celebrities that look like Neil. That's like the only thing I can have like effect over. Um,
Wow. Of course.
yeah,
Got to tie it back into
That's
but
Neil.
a no. That's a noble collection.
Mm. Um. So, like again, it's. I mean, you could put those shorts up on a wall, like put them in a frame just to kind of remind yourself of, like who you are, or who you still value, or what you still value. I mean, you could do that, but I don't think you should feel bad. Like something I'm recognizing, especially in hearing about your child selection collection, is that like these are very childish things. Like collecting like an endeavor, like collecting Lego, for instance, or like I don't know, like whatever, like jerseys. Like these are things that I think we have a lot more time for and attention for as a child. Um, and maybe that's also part of it as well, is like doing these things to hold on to our our innocence, especially because in growing up you happen to lose a lot of it, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
I think if I could get
But
some things back, it might be toys that were given away to relatives, as younger kids came along and stuff like that. Because one thing I was going to mention today was the Fisher Price Sesame Street playset. This was quite a famous toy in its day, and it was probably my favorite thing that I owned when I was a little kid because it opened up into Sesame Street and it came with all the little characters. You had Big Bird and Bert and Ernie and Oscar the Grouch and all of those folks. And it was just very cleverly engineered as well because you could fold it all up and it had a handle that you could carry around. I don't even remember what happened to it. I'm sure it was given
Have
away
you looked
to a
on
younger
eBay?
relative. No, because it wouldn't be the same. It would be, someone else's, I think. And that's
That's
where
an interesting distinction because I know people that will go hunt for these things just to own again what they once had, or maybe to gift to themselves what they weren't able to be gifted as children. But for you, Neil, what's specific is
That's
it
it.
being the exact one that you once upon a time owned.
How
Yeah.
much is this eBay listing? $324. Okay, wow. So
Damn.
forget it. Yeah, you're better off just with the memories.
Yeah.
But this is it, Neil.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Imagine a young Neil Flanagan dressed in his
Carrying them.
Adrian Brody tracksuit, playing with these dolls. Lovely. Okay. Well,
Creepy.
leave the memories alone, I suppose. Thank you,
I
Aram.
heard you. I heard you coming to the States, Neil.
That's right. Yeah.
Me too this year, actually.
Really?
Where?
Yeah, actually, Florida. My wife has a aunt, and her aunt's husband. They're like 88 and 91. So
What part?
no, Vero Beach, I think.
What?
New Vero Beach,
Wait,
Newport or something.
wait. Oh, new. I don't know.
No,
What?
the
VERO?
Vero
no,
Beach?
yeah, Vero Beach. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's where my in-laws are. That's where Neil will be in February.
No way.
Yes, literally Vero Beach. Yes.
Well, it's a retirement place. It fits Neil.
So
Yeah.
when are you going around?
Oh, I'm going like if I get in, of course. That's the first part. But I'm going this late October.
Oh.
I'll miss you. I'll be there in September and December as well.
I can't travel in October.
Well,
I can't
I'll
get
just
time
pass
off.
by your in-laws and just say hi. I'm like from the Discord channel. Like they won't be
Leave him
confused.
something. Leave him a souvenir. Leave him something there while you're there.
Oh,
if you're
I
going.
will.
Yeah.
I'll
There's
need
a
like some of these storm houses.
Aram in Vero Beach. I think it's Indian River Mall. It's a wonderfully decaying mall. The Spencer's Gifts has the same entrance signage from like probably 1991. It's both depressing and for me very joyful to stroll through that mall. There's also a Disney resort in Vero Beach on the literal beach. You might
Oh,
you
really?
might be interested in. Yeah.
Well, I was there like from 10 years ago when my wife was pregnant. All I remember is like, yeah,
Go
it
on.
looks like that. I am. I just remember like we like it was like in a gated community they lived in,
Yeah, it's a lot of
and
that. I find it kind of boring to
for
be
us,
honest.
yeah, it was like, and like what I felt like was really absurd was like you could drive like 5 minutes away and then you see like a whole different parallel world.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, and we spoke about that with my with her aunt, and she like they complained that we wanted to like try these American fast food places, why we didn't go like these country clubs and stuff like. But all I like knew was like that pancake place and what's called
IHOP.
um IHOP. Yeah. You guys like you like enormous portions, so I have to like lose some weight before I go there.
There you go. Well, this one time I give you permission to reach out to me in private. Maybe I could give you a few places to check out while you're there.
Okay, and nice to hear you. You seem so unhinged when you're on the other podcast. It's like a
Yeah,
totally different like
He
Jordan.
is.
it's called the Wai Ting effect. I'm on my best behavior when we're on the wellness policy.
Unhinged. Yeah.
Oh, so he's the
Detox on the
reason.
Poisarana
Okay.
feed, everybody. To hear Unhinged, Jordan Goodman. Appreciate the
But
call,
I
Ron.
like, yeah, that's my favorite podcast. For this comes second now.
I'll
Thanks.
take it.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thank
You
you,
too, brother.
Ron.
You too.
See you at
So,
Vero
bye.
Beach. Bye bye. Okay, lastly, let's go to Stefan Kyle Gosign. Thank you for calling in, Stefan.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey,
Hey, dude.
hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Not too bad. Most of my experience with collecting seems to mirror ways. I have moments of just hyperfixation on a particular thing. I go absolutely nuts, spend way too much money, and then after a year or two, and the novelty kind of wears down, it just kind of slowly trickles to nothing. But what's interesting is that I've never collected for like monetary value or anything. Like I have a fairly large collection of comic books, novels, things like that. But for me, it was all about the actual story within them, the narrative within them. So I never bought like single issues or anything like that for resale. I would buy trade paperbacks or the hardcovers or omnibuses or whatever because the stories contained within were what I cared about. Got I've got two giant IKEA bookshelves of comic books and Star Trek novels. And recently, just trying to get away from screens and stuff, I started on the like Warhammer figurines. Painting, building them, gluing, and playing a couple of games. And it's been really, really nice. But I think the most interesting piece I've gotten, this is just going back to sort of like the totemic thing that was mentioned at the beginning. On my wedding day, when my wife threw the bouquet, she launched the thing and it hit the chandelier in the ballroom that we were in. And obviously some pieces of the chandelier fell to the ground. And me being a crazy person, I grabbed the first piece I could think of. So I still have it right here on my bookshelf, and it's just a piece of the chandelier that my wife broke, which threw the bouquet, and it never fails to bring me joy.
Mm.
Lovely.
Did the place that that you booked did you have to pay for replacement chandelier?
No,
Okay.
not at all. Yeah, they were very cool about it. Apparently it happens a lot. But yeah, no, they were really cool about it. Thank God.
Amazing.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Thank you very much for sharing. I hope that is a collection of one, and that you won't necessarily need to have another wedding to
No, definitely
add
not.
to it. Appreciate the addition to the chat. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You too, bud.
And thank you to everybody who contributed something to this conversation. Clearly, a topic that people wanted to jump in on, and maybe one we will revisit in the future. I feel like we always say that, and then we just never revisit the topic. So, any closing thoughts from either of you? What have you learned?
I thought it was interesting how little, and it goes to what Stefan was saying, how little our callers or any of the three of us have really talked about monetary value. It's more of what, as Stefan said, it brings him joy to have that piece of the chandelier. I think that's, what the word memorabilia comes from, I suppose, is the memories it brings us. And I think that's more important. I suppose if you do collect to sell, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly fine endeavor. But it struck me that no one's really talked about how much monetary worth there is in their collections. It's more what it means to them.
You might prize something a little more, knowing how much it was worth. I think that's one way of falling in love with an item is to know that it's coveted by other people. Nothing wrong with that either. Yeah. How about you, Jordan? What have you learned?
I learned that this was a worthwhile conversation. For me, it sounds like a nicer conversation starter, maybe meeting someone for the first time, other than, so what do you do to make money, which is often implied. And it's like, what's one thing that you have that you would never get rid of? Like, that's it. The answer, and this was evident in the callers today, reveals something significant about what each of us values and what we've experienced in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sort of is my takeaway. If you want a glimpse into like what is in a person's mind, or what sort of lived experience that they've had that's still important to them to this day. I mean, look no further than what's on their walls, or like on their shelves, or on their dresser, or in their CD collection. It's a great sort of way to, I guess, make physical what is in here. I suppose. So that is
I have
it.
one
Yeah.
more thing, if you don't mind. Speaking of making physical what isn't here. So this is really the only thing I have like representative of my dad. And when the house was sold and things were, we kind of, between myself, my brother, and my mom, was like, what does everyone want to hold on to? I have this stool of him. There we go.
Wow.
I did not expect that.
No.
And you like that way? I'll sell it to you. It's worth a lot.
This is wow. That's one of one.
That's amazing. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not.
Can you keep it in frame, please?
Will it stay in? I can just keep it. I can just hold it right here.
I think that should be in the background of your shot for eternity.
So what's interesting is Lily and I, our wedding anniversary was 2 days ago, and we brought this to the wedding. And there's a picture that I looked at yesterday with my mom and my godmom embracing me, and it was a really meaningful picture for me. But then in the background on this like elevated platform was my dad kind of looking over the three of us, and just the symbolism of that was deeply meaningful. And this thing actually is next to my bed, and I didn't know what it would be like at first, because in one sense it's kind of fucking creepy, because it's a pretty realistic visual representation of my father in, I think, the early to mid 90s with his golf club. But even like that bracelet that is on his wrist, that was a bracelet that he wore almost every day for years. So even just the specificity of something like that, this feels like my father.
Who made it,
And
Jordan?
I have
Yeah.
no idea. I have no
Really?
This thing is like 30 years old. And for most of my life, it had very little sentimental value to me. And now that he's gone, and he wasn't someone to take a lot of pictures, so I don't have just a ton of pictures of him. This very much not only looks like him, but it doesn't look like him when he was like older and unwell. This was him when I was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old, when he felt more godlike, like he was my dad. And certainly then he was vibrant, he was energetic, he was spirited. And it's like it's hard for me to articulate the value that this physical object offers me on a daily basis now.
Amazing, honestly amazing. And I don't know why you didn't start off with that one. That's way more
Yeah.
impressive than your Green Day drumsticks.
Well, thank you. But I mean, wait, for the right price, this could be yours.
So do you sit, like, can you sit on it? Do you allow people to sit on it?
Oh no, I wouldn't. I mean, could you? I suppose, but no, I wouldn't even want like any of it to just the paint to be chipped. This is like, because again, it's like I've lost my dad. That's by far the greatest loss I've ever endured, and am still enduring in its own way. And part of the journey has been to figure out ways to feel connected to him. As far as right now, visiting his grave, which I've done just a couple times, that ain't it. As far as me feeling some sense of connection to him, looking at this each night and in the morning is a more felt sense way to feel connected to him right now. So that's invaluable.
And Jordan, just really quickly, I mean, when your dad was still with you and that was sitting around in your parents' house or whatever, was it, it's a fun caricature of that's been painted of your dad. So it's kind of, that's why I think Wai and I were sort of like laughing a little bit. But to you now, it's clearly something much, much more meaningful. You would never part.
Are you
with
offended
it.
that we were laughing at it?
What do you think?
Obviously not, but I'm interested in that shift of something that's probably a fun thing that was sitting in your parents' house to something
I would say it's an absurd item to have a portrait painted onto, and that's why it's awesome.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's part of the appeal. To me, this is more spirited or interesting than just a photograph of him, for instance.
Yeah, or a painting in that style on a canvas or something like that. It's a story.
Yeah, I know my godmother's husband. So maybe we could call Larry a godfather, I suppose. We'll go with that. He has one as well. So I think this was maybe just there was a local artist in the mid 90s, and maybe this was a thing. But I know of 2 people that have this exact gift. What I assume was a gift to them. Mm-hmm. That would be weird if like they bought it for themselves, I think.
Would you ever want like a version of yourself or your wife in stool form? Like,
yeah, why not? It's funny.
Like a whole family of that'd be amazing. Like a whole set, like a whole collection.
Yeah. In our Discord, the Wellness Policy Discord, I'll share the picture I was talking about. But it is absurd, perhaps, that this thing that for my whole life has been just a novelty Now in this picture of my wedding day, my dad could not be there because he's not alive. And yet there is this visual representation of him that serendipitously made it into this meaningful photograph. And in a sense, that's the closest version of maybe him visually being there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Incredible. What a way to close this show. Thank you, Jordan, for sharing. Thank you, Neil, for sharing. Thank you to myself for sharing. And thank you to the post wrestling audience for always, always, always making the Wellness Policy one of the most important shows in the world. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys. We don't know what we'll be talking about next week, but I'm sure it'll be just as good. So tune in next time as we talk to you all again on the Wellness Policy. Bye-bye.
Bye.